What's up guys? Today I have 5 fun cosplay builds in Elden Ring. They are cosplays of enemies in the game, not of characters from other games or movies or shows. These are meant for PvE, but they could be used in PvP. They are all at level 150, and I started as Wretch. Without further ado, let's get into it. First we have the Crucible Knight build. There are 2 types of Crucible Knights in Elden Ring. I am doing an Ordivis build rather than a Siluria build, but they both are great. Ordivis's greatsword is a great weapon, even though it does holy damage. It can break bosses' stances in 2 attacks of the weapon art. This build is great at destroying tough bosses. The greatsword moveset is also good. It does good damage and is reliable. I forgot to equip the right talisman here, so I had to fumble around in the menu, but I ended up surviving. The light attacks are useful to use for bosses that don't have long openings. For regular enemies, you can hyper armor through hits while using the Ash of War. This even works for some bosses. Let's talk about the equipment. We have Ordivis's greatsword, any seal will do, and the Crucible axe set. For talismans, we have Sacred Scorpion Charm, Ritual Sword Talisman, Shard of Alexander, and Godfrey Icon. In the Physic Flask, we should have the Holy Shrouding Cracked Tear and Stonebarb Cracked Tear. I had the wrong Physic Tears on, but we still did great damage and got a stance break. For stats, 50 Vigor, 20 Mind to use the Ashen Out buffs, 29 Endurance to use our heavy weapons and armor, 72 Strength, 13 Dexterity and 25 Faith. Overall, this is a fun and powerful build. Next is the Banished Knight build. The Banished Knight weapons are really good in this game. There is a halberd and a greatsword. I am using the halberd here, but you can use either one. You can use both of them on the same build too. They both do good damage and have good movesets. You could put any Ash of War on them, but for the sake, if the cosplay, I am using Stormcaller, because that's what the knight uses. You could use a charged attack build for the greatsword or the halberd too. Great Ashes of War for a charged attack build are Cragblade, or RKR. The halberd gets poking attacks for its light attacks, which are nice. Stormcaller is really good at crowd control. I had not used it much before this, and it was fun to try it out. If I remember correctly, the greatsword wielding knights don't use any Ashes of War. You could use any one you wanted with the greatsword. Like I said, Cragblade is really good, or Stormblade is a good ranged option. You can use any ash you like. For equipment, I have the Banished Knight's halberd with Stormcaller and a heavy infusion. I have the full Banished Knight set altered. My talismans are Ritual Sword and Shield, Shard of Alexander, and Green Turtle Talisman. In the Physic Flask, I have the Green Burst Tear and Opaline Tear. For stats, we have 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, 27 Endurance, 80 Strength and 12 Dex. This build is really fun and versatile. It has great poking attacks, and vertical and horizontal swipes. It has good crowd control, and it can have ranged attacks. At number 3 is the Raidon build. Raidon's weapons are so good. The bow is surprisingly powerful. The greatswords are really good because you can dual wield them with only one weapon. If you two-hand the swords, you get another one, and a dual-wielded moveset. You only have to upgrade one weapon, and you don't need a ton of equip load. Well, that's not entirely true. Raidon's armor is really heavy. I have 32 endurance and the Great Jar's arsenal, and I can only wield the greatswords, not both the swords and the bow. The bow is great for sniping enemies from far away. The Ash of War is also really good for big bosses, because it can hit them a bunch of times. The greatsword's Ash of War is great for large groups of enemies. The regular attacks on the greatsword are decent too. For stats, we have 50 Vigor, 16 Mind, 32 Endurance, 73 Strength, 23 Dexterity, and 15 Intelligence. For equipment, we have the Starscourge greatswords and Raidon's bow. We can't equip them both, or else we will be in heavy load, even with the Great Jar's arsenal and 32 endurance. We have Raidon's whole set equipped. My talismans are Shard of Alexander, Ritual Sword and Shield, and Great Jar's arsenal. This is a powerful, fun build. It's fun to snipe enemies from far away with our great bow. When they get close, we can explode them with our greatswords. The sword's ash can be buffed by having the Highland axe in our other hand. We would have to take some more points in endurance, and it doesn't go with the cosplay though. Before we get to number 4, make sure to like and subscribe for more Elden Ring content. I've got more builds coming in the future, so stay tuned. Next we have the Bloodhound Knight build. Like the Crucible Knight and Banished Knights, there are 2 weapons you can use for a Bloodhound Knight build. They aren't very compatible though. The Bloodhound's Fang has a B in Dex and a C in Strength. I went mostly into Dexterity and a little into Strength. You could still use the claws, but they wouldn't be as optimized. The Bloodhound's Fang is my main weapon for this build. It is so good at shredding bosses. The weapon art has some invincibility frames during the dash. It has a good moveset and bleed damage. The overall AR is also really good. Another thing great about the Bloodhound's Fang is that it can be buffed even though it is a somber weapon with bleed damage. My buff of choice is Bloodflame Blade. This will make the Fang do insane bleed damage. It also has slash damage, which is pretty good. For equipment, Bloodhound's Fang, any seal, full Bloodhound Knight armor set. My talismans are Ritual Sword and Shield, Shard of Alexander, and Lord of Blood's Exaltation. Let's talk about the stats. We've got 60 Vigor, 20 Mind and Endurance, 36 Strength and 58 Dex, 15 Faith and 10 Arcane for Bloodflame Blade, and Flame grant me Strength. This build is super good at taking down bosses with its bleed damage, slash damage, and high AR. The combinations of bleed and slash damage is particularly powerful against the Godskin enemies. Finally, number 5 is the Godkin Apostle build. The Godkin Apostle build is great because of the Twin Blade moveset and the Black Flame Tornado Ash of War. It does a set percentage of damage. The Twin Blade itself does a good amount of damage and hits fast. The Godkin Apostle uses Black Flame, but we have a full Dex build. We could have gone all into Faith and used a Flame Art Affinity, but the Godkin Apostle does not do fire damage with its Twin Blade. The build is very effective, even without the Black Flame spell. Let's get into the equipment. Full Godkin Apostle set, and the Keen Godskin Peeler with Black Flame Tornado. For talismans we have Ritual Sword, Millicent's Prosthesis, Godfrey Icon and Shard of Alexander. In the Physic Flask we have Flame Shrouding Cracked Tear, and Green Burst Crystal Tear. For stats, I went all into Dexterity. We've got 60 Vigor, 20 Mind, and 32 Endurance. With 32 Endurance we can be in light load with this setup. 12 Strength is all we need to two-hand the peeler. Honestly, going with a Faith build and a Flame Art Peeler might have been the better choice here. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give some of these builds a try if you are interested. If you enjoyed, hit the like button and subscribe. See you later.